So this video resurfaced on social media. Mayor Pete was running for state office in Indiana. A race he lost, by the way, by over 20 points. During an interview for campaigning for that position, he sounded very different on the issue of money in politics compared to how he sounds now.
Anything else you'd like to talk about? Anything you had in mind?
I think today is the day when campaigns release their finance numbers, and everybody puts their cards on the table for the last quarter. And it's highlighted something I think is really important in this race, and is very important certainly to my campaign. And that is that I think we need to get special interest money out of the treasurer's race. Right now, there are almost no rules constraining the ability of, say, Wall Street banks to pump large sums of money into state treasurer's campaign. And having looked at my own finances and seen what's happening in my opponent's race, I've noticed that thousands of dollars are flowing in from some of the biggest banks in the country in order to defeat me. It's not just that they're trying to defeat me that I'm bothered by this, but very early on in this campaign, I made a decision that I wasn't going to accept any money from a bank that could be doing business with the state treasurer's office. I think it creates a conflict of interest. It creates an appearance, at the very least, that can smell like pay to play. It's not good for the state. And I don't think it's good for the banks either. Who wants to be the one bank that didn't contribute if 4 or 5 banks are competing to get a favorable decision from the state treasurer's office? And so early on in this campaign, I announced that I wouldn't take that money, no corporate money from banks, no PAC money from banks, and somebody who works at a bank, we're going to hold ourselves to a limit that's lower than the official limit.
Dude, he knows. He knows. He obviously gets it. Because he acted on the debate stage recently like, what? I don't even know what you guys are talking about. Money influencing politicians? What? Corruption? Bribery? You guys reaching. Come on, dude. Come on. Why are you treating us like morons? Why are you treating us like idiots? And that's what he's doing. That's absolutely what he's doing. You heard him, with his like smug politician cadence and whatnot. What I would say is, we don't want to go into a fight against Donald Trump with one hand tied behind our back. When the criticism is, hey man, these are de facto bribes, so if you accept it, you're supposed to do favors in return. That's corruption. When that's the criticism, it's not an adequate response to be like, yeah, bro, well, we gotta win, bro. 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 At what expense? At what cost? Selling off all of your principles, selling off all of your policy beliefs. So then what's the point of winning if you're going to get in there and you're totally compromised and you're not going to do any of the good things that you are supposed to, in theory, do? So, I mean, he gets it, and that's what's so crazy about watching that clip. And by the way, here's the reality. I hate to tell everybody, but it's likely the case that the reason why he took that line in the first place is because he's new on the scene and he couldn't raise the same amount of money in bribes as the other people who were running for the position. So it was politically opportunistic for him to just go, oh, I'll pretend to be the anti-establishment, anti-corruption candidate, and maybe that'll help me win. So for him, it was just the path of least resistance in a way. Like, oh, I'm not going to outraise them with the bribes, so I'll just pretend to morally grandstand here. Now, when it comes to him running for president, guess what? The only people who are really two of the top-tier candidates, Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, they're not taking that money now. Elizabeth Warren just came to that position recently, but Bernie's had that position for a long time. So now Wall Street and the banks are just looking for candidates to give money to. Obviously, Joe Biden is one, but Amy Klobuchar as well. But in the case of Pete, he's like, ooh, me, I'm here. I'm polling decently. Hey, me. And he thinks that it's the only way that he could really win. Because he ain't going to run a grassroots campaign. How's he going to run a grassroots campaign and outdo a grassroots behemoth like Bernie Sanders? He knows he can't out-fundraise Bernie Sanders grassroots style. So he's like, okay, I mean, this is my only place. This is my only option. I got to play the role of, the centrist guy and then act like this money isn't corrupting at all. Well, you voiced the argument that it is corrupting, and he did it all the way back in 2010. So guys, in the case of Mayor Pete, just understand, he's a raw opportunist. He's just looking for an angle to ride to power. That's it. That's what it is. And if you can't acknowledge that after looking at what he said in this recent debate and what he said back in 2010, then I don't know what to tell you, because you're blinding yourself on purpose. You're being dense on purpose. What Mayor Pete said in 2010 about the corrupting influence of money in politics is correct. The fact that he now has the polar opposite position, diametrically opposed position, tells you it was never a principled belief of his in the first place. It was just an angle. So you can't trust that guy. And if you think this is, it's only one example. Well, it's a huge example because it's on corruption, which is like arguably the number one issue. He also did this on Medicare for All. When he was hopping in the race, he was, Medicare for All is definitely the way to go. I support Medicare for All. He went on MSNBC and he said, listen, this is just about shifting the Overton window as well. We don't go in watering down our position. We don't go in asking for a half measure. We go in by changing the debate and saying we want an NHS-style system, a single-payer-style system. That's what he used to say. Now what does he say? Oh, Medicare for All who want it is my position, which is that watered-down position that he says you don't go in with up front. He's just looking for an angle. It's so obvious. It is unfathomable that anybody could look at this guy, know his history, and then go, yeah, I trust him. Trust him with what? Trust him when he says which thing? Because he said everything. In a very similar way to Donald Trump, and in a very similar way to Hillary Clinton. I'm interested in the consistent candidates. Hate to tell you, Pete.